This is an audio-only horror story. I want you to close your eyes in. 3, 2, 1, 0. Use your imagination as you listen, and use your imagination to invoke a scene. Enjoy the ride.
My name is Emily Carter, and jogging is my sanctuary. The rhythmic pounding of my sneakers on the pavement, the steady breath in my lungs, it's my way of clearing my mind and finding solace amidst the chaos of daily life. Every morning, I follow the same route through the park near my apartment, a path familiar and comforting. It was an overcast morning, the sky a quilt of gray clouds. I laced up my running shoes, pulled on my favorite neon jacket, and set out for my usual run. The park was relatively quiet, save for the occasional chirp of a bird and the rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. The route was uneventful until I turned onto a less traveled trail that skirted the edge of the park. This trail was lined with dense foliage and rarely frequented by other joggers. It was there that I stumbled upon something I'd never expected to see. As I rounded a bend, I nearly tripped over something in the underbrush. I skidded to a halt and looked down, my breath catching in my throat. Lying among the fallen leaves was a body, bloodied and mutilated. It was a man, his clothes in tatters, his face barely recognizable. My heart raced as I stumbled back, my mind reeling. I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking as I dialed 911. I was desperate to get help, but as I spoke to the operator, I couldn't tear my eyes away from the gruesome sight before me. "Help is on the way," the operator said, their voice a distant echo in my panic. "Stay where you are and try not to touch anything." I nodded absently, even though I knew they couldn't see me. I kept my gaze fixed on the body, my mind struggling to process the scene. Then, amid my horror and confusion, I heard it, a strange, rhythmic clicking sound. The clicking was faint at first, almost like the ticking of a clock. But as I listened more closely, it grew louder and more insistent. It was a disturbing, irregular noise that seemed to echo through the trees. I looked up, trying to locate the source of the sound. The park's dense foliage cast long shadows, making it difficult to see clearly. The clicking grew louder, and I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Then I saw it, a dark figure emerging from the shadows, moving with unnerving speed. The figure was cloaked in darkness, its form obscured by the gloom. It was running directly towards me, the clicking sound growing more pronounced with each step. Panic surged through me. I wanted to run, but my legs felt like lead. I took a step back, my mind racing as I tried to make sense of what was happening. The figure was closer now, its form becoming more defined. It seemed to be a person, but their movements were jerky and unnatural, like a marionette being pulled by invisible strings. The figure's face was still hidden in the shadows, but I could make out its eyes, cold, unfeeling, and fixated on me. The clicking noise was deafening now, a relentless, rhythmic sound that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. I turned and ran, my heart pounding in my chest. I sprinted down the trail, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The clicking sound followed me, growing louder and more frantic. It was as if the figure was gaining on me, its presence an ever-encroaching threat. The trail twisted and turned, the foliage blurring past me as I fled. I glanced over my shoulder, but the figure was still obscured by the darkness. The clicking sound seemed to be closing in, filling my ears with a maddening rhythm. I could see the park's exit ahead, a glimmer of safety in the distance. I pushed myself harder, determined to reach it. Just as I neared the exit, I felt a sharp, searing pain in my side. I stumbled, nearly falling, but I managed to keep moving. I burst out of the trail and into the open park. My lungs burned, and my legs felt like lead. I looked around frantically for help, but the park was still eerily empty. The clicking sound had stopped, replaced by the sound of my heavy breathing. I collapsed onto a bench, my heart racing as I tried to catch my breath. I glanced around, trying to spot any sign of the dark figure. The park was bathed in the gray light of the overcast sky, and everything seemed to be normal again, except for the lingering sense of dread that clung to me. Just then, I heard the clicking sound again, this time coming from behind me. I whirled around, my eyes scanning the area. The dark figure was nowhere to be seen, but the clicking persisted, a chilling reminder of the terror I had just experienced. I realized that I needed to get out of the park and find somewhere safe. I stumbled to my feet and began to make my way towards the park's exit, my mind racing with questions. Who or what was that figure? Why had it been chasing me? As I left the park and made my way back to my apartment, I tried to piece together what had happened. I was still in shock, my thoughts disjointed and scattered. I arrived home, locked the door, and collapsed onto my bed, my mind spinning with fear and confusion. That evening, I watched the news, hoping to find some information about the gruesome discovery in the park. To my horror, the news was filled with reports of a series of disappearances and sightings of a dark figure matching the description I had seen. The reports mentioned a local legend about a vengeful spirit that haunted the park, a figure known as the Clicker. According to the legend, the Clicker was a malevolent entity that preyed on those who ventured into the park after dark. It was said to be a remnant of a tragic event from the past, a spirit bound to the park and driven by an insatiable hunger for revenge. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The figure I had seen was not just a figment of my imagination or a random threat. It was part of a larger, more terrifying story, one that had plagued the park for years. Determined to uncover the truth and find closure, I decided to return to the park the following morning. I knew it was a dangerous decision, but I had to confront my fears and find out more about the Clicker. I arrived at the park early, the sky still dark and overcast. I followed the trail back to the spot where I had seen the body, my nerves on edge. The park was eerily silent, the only sound the crunch of leaves beneath my feet. When I reached the spot, I found that the body was gone. The area was empty, with no sign of the gruesome discovery I had stumbled upon. It was as if it had never been there. The clicking sound returned, faint but unmistakable. I turned around, scanning the area for any sign of the Clicker. The dark figure emerged from the shadows once more, moving with that unnervingly jerky motion. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and the clicking sound grew louder. I realized that the Clicker was not just a figment of my imagination. It was a real, malevolent entity. I had to escape, but the figure was closing in, its presence a suffocating weight. In a final, desperate bid for survival, I ran towards the park's exit. The clicking sound pursued me relentlessly, echoing in my ears. I burst out of the park, my lungs burning and my heart racing. I never returned to the park. The fear and trauma of my encounters with the Clicker left me scarred. I moved to a different part of the city, hoping to escape the memories and the lingering sense of dread. Despite my efforts to leave the past behind, the clicking sound occasionally haunts my dreams. It's a chilling reminder of the terror I experienced and the malevolent entity that lurks in the shadows of the park. The park's legend lives on, a chilling story passed down through the years. The Clicker remains a dark and unsettling presence, a reminder that some fears are all too real. If you ever find yourself in that park, jogging along the trails, be wary of the shadows and the strange clicking sounds. Some legends are rooted in reality, and the Clicker is one of the most terrifying reminders that the dark holds secrets we can't always understand.
As the final echoes of the tale fade into the darkness, remember this: in the shadows where fear takes root, the true horror lies not in the creatures that lurk, but in the darkness within ourselves. We tell these stories not just to scare or entertain, but to confront the fears that we try so hard to ignore. So as you step back into the light of the real world, carry with you the lessons of the night. The monsters we create are reflections of our deepest anxieties, and the strength to overcome them is within each of us. Sleep well, and remember, in the realm of fear, we are the true masters of our fate. Good night, and may your dreams be free of shadows. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the notification bell for you to see my future update on this channel. Stay safe and always remember to lock your doors.